Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this national webinar at Believers Church Medical College and Hospital. It's a great privilege and honor to host this special program on the eve of World Nurses Day. The topic for the day is patient experience exceeding their expectations, a nurse's role. It all started with Florence Nightingale, when she decided to tend to Russian soldiers and then the British soldiers. And from then, the whole world of medicine was transformed at the bare hands of selfless soldiers of life, the nurses. With a great salute to each and every nurse around this globe, I would like to hand over this session to the moderator of the day, our Chief Nursing Officer, the Florence Nightingale of Believers Church Medical College and Hospital, Mrs. Minnie Sarah Thomas. She's been the leading light for a whole lovely bunch of nurses who have been instrumental in giving life to our patients for the past 7 years. It has been 7 glorious years, and shortly after receiving the Nursing Excellence Awards, our nurses march on behind their great leader. With a world of experience around the globe, in the Middle East and elsewhere, ma'am has come back to establish one of the best nursing units in the country. So it's our pride, it's our joy to welcome our moderator for the day, Mrs. Minnie Sarah Thomas, as she gives an overview to the topic and introduces our speaker. Over to you, Minnie, ma'am.
Thank you, Jacob. Thank you for that introduction. I don't know if I'm worthy of it, but thank you very much. So good evening, everybody who has signed in. And today we speak about patient experience exceeding their expectation and the role that a nurse will play to achieve it. The challenges of providing patients with a positive experience in healthcare are undeniable. Most healthcare organizations work hard to meet the basic level of service standards demanded by their patients. However, when it comes to patient experience, the difference between meeting the basic level needs of the patient and delivering great or even excellent service can be very vast. Nevertheless, the patient experience can be improved by making simple changes to the current service delivery model in the healthcare organizations. Fundamentally, what does the patient need? The patient expresses their requirements in terms of what they need, what they want, what they prefer, and demand with respect to the nursing care they receive. The requirements of patient could be considered as a demand for quality nursing that nurses and health system attempt to meet. Excellence in nursing care is what those in need of healthcare services wish for, and it is also the main goal of those providing this care. To improve the quality of nursing care, that is the combined product of patient expectation and perception, the healthcare team, especially the nurse, should be aware what the patients perceive to nursing care services, as well as what factors influence patients' perception to nursing care. To enlighten us on this subject, we have with us an eminent speaker, a teacher.
Minnie, you are on mute.
She has a wealth of 32 years of experience, and these 32 years she has spent in hospitals and colleges in Mumbai, Muscat, Saudi Arabia, and now in India in Tamil Nadu. She started off as a staff nurse and has climbed up the ladder, working in various capacities, slowly but steadily as a principal of RVS College of Nursing, Sulur. And now I'm proudly presenting the Secretary of RVS College of Arts and Science, RVS Institute of Management Studies and Research, and RVS Matriculation and Higher Secondary School, Sulur. She did her Bachelor's of Science and Master's of Science in the prestigious SNDT University in Mumbai. She has a diploma in nursing administration, and she has done human resource management and analytics from the Wharton University, United States of America. Shirley, we welcome you to this webinar, and I'm sure everybody listening to you and watching you will be blessed by what you have to say and will be enlightened with your information that you're going to give us today. Over to you, Shirley.
Thank you very much, Minnie. And at the onset, I would like to express my gratitude to the management of Believers Church Medical College Hospital for giving me this opportunity to interact with nurses, to share my experience, and to have a meaningful encounter with all of you. Now, as rightly said, tomorrow the world is going to celebrate the International Nurses Day. And the topics that is selected for this webinar, patients' experience exceeding their expectation and nurses' role. I'm very passionate about nursing because nursing was, God's plan for my life. It was a calling over my life. And to that end, every cell in my being is very happy when I talk about nursing. Now, like I said, as the world is celebrating the International Nurses Day, I'm sure all of you know the theme. Can we have the first slide, please? The next one. Yes, this is the theme for the 2022 International Nurses Day. And it says, Nurses, a voice to lead, nursing the world to health. Now, when I was, looking at this theme and looking back at our nursing years, the years that we have gone through in studying nursing, in caring for patients in the hospitals, we realize that we are carrying such a huge responsibility, such a huge, responsibility over our lives, over ourselves, to lead the world to health. Okay. Now, can we have the next slide? 12th May, the world over, people celebrate. You have different captions coming in. If you look at Google search and you see, you'll have so many things related to 12th May Nurses Day. But all of us who are living as nurses, working as nurses on a daily basis, we realize that indeed we are exceptional people. And indeed we are the essential services, that covers the healthcare industry all over the world. So we don't really need anybody else to praise us or to appreciate us. We can, with boldness and with confidence, we can just tap ourselves and be happy that we are nurses. Go to the next slide, please. The pandemic from 2020 onwards, we know the whole world has been reeling under this pandemic. And people have been giving us, new names. They've been appreciating us. They call us frontline warriors. But as nurses, as practicing nurses, people working in the hospitals, we know we have always been frontline warriors. We've always been at the bedside of patients. We've always been there to plan the care for the patients wherever we go. Huh? So, one more year, one more International Day, and we look with pride, we look with gratitude. We're grateful to God for giving us that privilege to be a nurse, to be an educated nurse, to be a skillful nurse, to be a committed nurse. Not only when we come in the limelight, but even in the quiet times on our regular basis when there is nobody watching us, when we give our 100% commitment to our patients. So we as nurses are definitely frontline workers. The next slide, please. Now this is, I do not know whether anybody knows what this is. This is a clipping from a Tamil movie. And I think the name of the movie is E. In Tamil, a fly is called an E. Now, I was quite fascinated by this because once we were going for an excursion from our college, after the morning hours of play and fun, everybody got into the bus and we were about to travel to the next place. And in the bus, people started sleeping. Everybody started dozing off. And at that time, the driver and, somebody there to help him out, he put up this movie. And this was the scene that came in and the music related to that. And as soon as this picture came on the screen and the music was played, everybody woke up, everybody was active, everybody was alert. Now, when I talk about nursing, this is the feeling that comes into my heart, that nursing is the primary focus, that is the goal, that is the passion with which we as nurses talk about nursing. We go to the next slide. Albert Einstein, 1879 to 1956, I'm sure all of us know. He's been a great scientist, a very intelligent man. And this is what he had to say. He said, "Only a life lived for others is a life worth living." And when you look at nurses, that's exactly what we are doing. Now it says only a life lived for others is a life worth living. Now, if you see in colleges, if you see an undergraduate program or a postgraduate program, once in a while, in a semester, people go out to an orphanage or they go to an old age home, do some social service activity. But as nurses, our entire life is involved in taking care of somebody else. Our life is surrendered to the care of another human being. So I'm sure we understand that our life is definitely worth living. The next slide, please. I was reading some article and it says this gentleman, Bill Clinton, I'm sure all of you know Bill Clinton. You've heard about him. Bill Clinton was the president of the United States of America. And one day he came face to face with Mother Teresa and Princess Diana. And one journalist asked him, between these two people, Mother Teresa and Princess Diana, who do you think is, better off, or, if you weigh both of them, where do you think they stand? And this is what he had to speak about Mother Teresa. And he said, what can be said about a life so well lived? Okay, that means there is no comparison. And I'm sure as nurses, we also need to be very, very grateful to God that we are living lives for others and we are living life that is worthy, that is having a good cause in the future. So each one of us is living a very worthy life. The next slide, please. I've picked up a few, pictures from Google, etc., because I think this talks a lot about what we are into as nurses. The stethoscope, all of us know it's a tool that we use for diagnostic purposes. And we as healthcare providers, we use it very often. And we use it with love. We use it with our heart. We use it caring for our patients. So when we talk about nursing, there's so much of, the emotion of feeling love for another human being, right? We go to the next slide. I love pets. I love dogs. And we have a pet dog. Now this slide tells us about pedigree or a brand, talking. Now these days, everybody talks about a brand, wanting the best, whether it is your clothes, whether it's jewelry, whether it is cosmetics, anything. People want to buy something that is branded, whether it's a mobile phone, okay? Now as nurses, I believe in the healthcare industry, we are a brand above everything else, above everybody else. Okay, we are much, much higher than what we really understand or what we perceive about ourselves. So we are a brand in ourselves. The next one, the next slide. Now this is, the previous one, yeah. Now all of us know that, we have studied this in our history of nursing, where we talk about nursing started with the mother was the first nurse. She's the one who took care of her child.
Please mute your audios. Mega Cherian, please mute your audio.
Yes, it was the mother.
You have something like there. You have something there. Come. Something in the table. Let me see.
The mother was the first nurse. That is what our history of nursing teaches us. Okay, but we don't call our moms as nurses, because nursing is not just doing something, as a mother, but there's so much more to it. And those of us who have gone through our educational process, we understand how rigorous it has been for us to be educated as nurses. And all of us have studied the definition of nursing. We go to the next slide, please. And the most common definition of nursing that we know is, what Virginia Henderson has given us, and we studied under the international nurses. International nurses have also given us the definition, and they say the unique function of the nurse is to assist the individual, sick or well. It goes on and on. Now, this is another definition of nursing, which I really love. And, this is ingrained in my mind so much that every time I think of being a nurse or practicing as a nurse or teaching my students about nursing, this definition is the highlight. And it says, the nurse is temporarily the consciousness of the unconscious, the love of life of the suicidal, the leg of the amputee, the eyes of the newly blind, a means of locomotion for newborn, knowledge and confidence for the young mother, and a voice for those too weak to speak, and so on. So, just reading this definition helps us to understand who we are. Who am I as a nurse? What is my responsibility? Which are the areas that I function? Now, I'll go on to some of these specifics as we go through the next slide. It says the nurse is, the next slide, my dear. The nurse is temporarily the consciousness of the unconscious. Such a huge responsibility. When you go to the ICU, you have a patient whom you are taking care of. Patient is unconscious. Patient is not able to respond back to you. Patient has got such a lot of tubings around, maybe a head injury, maybe after a surgery, maybe some, has been acutely ill with any ailment, but right now patient is unconscious. And this is what Virginia Henderson says, when the patient is unconscious, you and I as nurses, we become the consciousness of the unconscious patient. I'll give you an example of that. When I was a student in Mumbai, in SNDT Mumbai, I think it was in my first year or second year, when I was in Nair Hospital as a student nurse, taking care of one of my patients who had, she had a head injury and she was admitted in the hospital. I still remember her name. Her name was Violet. Now, Violet had two sons. One son went for work. The little boy was in the hospital playing around, not knowing what was really, happening to his mother. So when I was taking care of this patient, I think I was giving a sponge bath or something like that. Suddenly, this thought came into my mind: tell Violet God loves you. And Violet was unconscious. She had a huge bandage on the head. And I did not know what to do. I was quite embarrassed because, there are patients around, there are doctors walking for rounds, etc. So I just tried to push off that voice. And then again, I continued my work. After some time, again, this thought came in which said, tell Violet God loves you. The second time, I tried to push it off. And the third time, again, the same voice came, to me very clearly. And in my consciousness, it said, tell Violet God loves you. And I looked around to see if anybody is watching me. When I was sure there was nobody around, I bent down towards Violet's ears and I whispered in her ear and said, Violet, God loves you. And you won't believe, my friends, before I could, straighten myself, I saw tears running down Violet's eyes. And and I think later on in my third year, when we were doing specialty in medical surgical nursing, that is when I learned that hearing is the last sense to be lost, which means when you're taking care of your patient in the ICU, even if your patient is not able to respond back to you, the patient can hear you speaking. That is why our teachers would tell us, talk to your patient. Talk to your patient. Patient can hear. When you're going to give a rice tube feeding, tell the patient what you are giving him. For example, you say, I'm going to give you milk or I'm going to give you vegetable soup. You are the connecting bridge. That is why Virginia Henderson so many years back said, the nurse is the consciousness of the unconscious. So my dear friends, feel very proud about what you are doing. You are connecting an unconscious patient to his conscious environment. And when you keep doing that, it becomes easy for the unconscious patient to respond back, to get back to his normal conscious level. The next slide. It says, the definition says the nurse is the leg of the amputee. So many patients, maybe they've had a gangrene, a diabetic gangrene, or maybe it was an accident. They had to amputate the feet, maybe the foot. Maybe, that's the first time they are going to walk with crutches. And you can imagine the emotional trauma the patient is going through, the client is going through. So much of, self-esteem has been crushed. A sense of fear has come in, not knowing what is going to happen tomorrow. And Virginia Henderson says, you and I as nurses, we are temporarily the leg of the amputee. What a great privilege. And especially when you start teaching nurses, student nurses are very young. They are 18, 19, 20, 21 years, extremely young age for them, because they're living in a world where everybody is focusing on self. But as a nursing student, he or she is focusing on someone else, carrying somebody else's burden, holding somebody else's hand to help them walk. So that is why Virginia says, you are the leg of the amputee. The next slide. Next slide. She says, you are the eyes of the blind. Isn't that absolutely awesome? Is there anything more that you can compare with? You can be proud that As nurses, this is what I'm doing. I'm the eyes of the blind, somebody who is blind suddenly, or maybe because of an accident, or because of glaucoma or diabetic retinopathy, whatever. Somebody has lost his sight. Just imagine, close your eyes for some time, try to maneuver around and see how difficult it is. And the definition tells us, you and I as nurses, we are the eyes of the blind. Okay, so we have a huge responsibility. The next one, we are the confidence for the young mother. Okay, now I'm sure when we did our 4th year, when we did our labor room posting, and the beauty of conducting a delivery and bringing a newborn child into planet Earth, at that young age, and working together with the mother, with maybe the extended family members. So my dear friends, I can challenge you that there is no other stream of education that gives you so much confidence as nursing. Even in your own life, girls and boys, when you get married, when you have babies, I'm sure you're able to handle your little one, to take care of the breastfeeding needs, take care of vaccinations, everything, because you as a nurse have learned so much. You go to the bedside of the patient, the mother, primary mother does not know how to hold the baby, does not know how to support the head. She's frustrated because there is no milk that is being secreted. But because you are intelligent, you have learned that when the baby sucks, milk will be released. So you're able to give education to the mother and tell her, don't worry, I am there. There's this line which says, "Main hu na." Okay, njan undallo. Okay, so in different, I am there. Don't worry, I am there with you. I am there to support you. Yeah, the next one, my dear. Once again, life's most pertinent question is, what are you doing for others? We are living actually in today's world, which is totally different. The perspective has changed so much. If you ask anybody, they will talk about love yourself first. Even elderly people, like people my age, they always talk about set apart time for yourself, learn to love yourself. True. I'm not negating that. But, wise people, important people have said, what are you doing for others? In what way is your life meaningful? And I'm sure as nurses, we are all very happy because our life, majority of our life is lived for others, right? The next slide. This is just a picture, okay, of maybe an emergency casualty area where nurses are on the move, saving lives, running, because we know the initial time period is extremely essential. We are on the move, always running, always working, whether it is the ward, whether it is an operation theater, whether it is the ICU, whether it is a pediatric area. Okay, we are on the move. We are there to help others. The next one. Language matters. I believe language matters because, communication is something so important. Nowadays, when children go for placements, the colleges put such a lot of emphasis on training them up in communication skills. Now, as nurses, we need to learn the language of hope, the language of courage, the language of compassion. Our body language matters a lot. When a patient comes to ask us something, the expressions on her face, I'm sure nurses are extremely busy, no doubt about it. And yet, being considerate, being willing to listen, okay, willing to acknowledge, willing to appreciate. Maybe a patient has gone through surgery and you're trying to ambulate the patient. Maybe the very fact that the patient has attempted to sit up, made an attempt maybe to do some deep breathing exercise and cough a little, language of appreciation from the nurse, you know, just to look good, you did a good job, come on, next time you'll do better. That gives courage. So language matters. It shapes our thought. When there is hope, when the patient looks at, you know, for example, if there is a diagnosis of a malignant tumor, and you know, the doctors come and given that information, the nurse is standing around, the patient is looking, and what are we conveying? Is it a sense of hopelessness, or is it a sense of hope? I remember when we were students, we had a nun sister studying with us, and she was taking care of a burns patient, I think about 85% burns, and you know, very meticulously applying silver sulfadiazine, and she was giving the care, and immediately, you know, I mean, the screens were put up, and she was taking care of the patient, and you know, we knew it would be very difficult for the patient to survive. But you know, doctor came for rounds, senior doctors came for round, and one doctor just said, why are you wasting time on that patient? She will not survive. And this sister looked up at the doctor and very calmly, very gently said, sir, she's still alive, still alive. You know, this is what we must have, you know, the hope that you have till the very end, I'm going to help. Okay, so our language matters a lot, what we say. So we need to train ourselves. We need to spend time educating ourselves about how we need to handle everybody who is working with us, our patients especially, the patients' relatives also, because everybody has come with so much of questions. The fear of the unknown is so real on their faces. And we are the ones who are supposed to be knowing what is happening to the patient. So we need to have the language of hope, the language of courage, the language of love, the language of willing to do something for the patient. The next slide, please. We have pledged our lives to the service of humanity. Okay, I still remember the day we had our candle lighting ceremony. We were so young and so naive. We had no idea about, you know, how nursing is going to span out. But we pledged our lives to the service of humanity. And, you know, my dear friends, believe me, it's not going to be a bed of roses. We're going to have tough days. We're going to have days when we do not want to go to the hospital, when we are tired. You know, these are all normal feelings. But I believe when you lean on God, you know, when there is a leaning towards God, asking Him, God, give me strength. I'm tired. I don't have the courage to face so much of agony, but please help me. God will definitely help us. And we'll be able to continue. See, for example, your chief nursing officer, Mini Sarah Madam also. How many years of experience, how many patients she has gone through, how much of care, and still the joy that is reflected, you know, being part of this profession. We have taken our pledge very, very seriously. The next slide. Life is a journey, it's not a destination. So we must make a decision to enjoy this journey. Like Mini Madam said, 33 years, 34 years in this profession. Okay, I remember we were in Mumbai when the bomb blast happened, and you know, there was blood everywhere. ICUs were all full. You know, we've seen so many things in life in different parts of the world. This is all part of our journey. Your journey may be different, but we all need to make efforts to enjoy the journey, not only our personal journey, our professional journey also. The next one, because this life, it's going to be your story. You have to write your story. And you know, you need we have gone through so many years of you know, times of being in the hospital, watching death, watching life, watching healing, watching pain. You know, sometimes a mother carries a baby for 9 months, and then during the delivery, it's a stillbirth. And the pain that the mother has to go, that becomes part of your story. You have learned something from that. You have seen, maybe you've been there to wipe away somebody's tears. When there was a patient crying, you were there. You become part of their story. Okay, so it is the decisions that we take in life, the choices that we make as nurses. We write our own story. The next one. Next slide, please. This is the India that we are living in. This is one side of the India that we are living in. We see sometimes in the media, we see in public limelight, we see a different India. We see, maybe very well-off people. We see very, very affluent crowd. But this is part of our India. Okay, we still struggle with malnutrition. We still struggle with places where there is no drinking water facilities. We still struggle with, children abuse happening in homes, in lives. We still have girl babies being discarded in the dustbins. We have a social responsibility. And as nurses, we have made a choice. We have taken the pledge that we are going to stand for our nation. We are going to stand and help our nation become healthy. We are going to, work as warriors, frontline warriors, where we will fight against diseases in all forms. And to that end, becoming very consciously aware. We cannot afford to have a flippant life. We have to become aware because we are educated nurses. And we need to show that it needs to reflect. Okay, we need to feel with what is happening around us in the hospitals and around. The next one, please. Next slide. In life's journey, this is how life's journey looks like. We have a train with the engine in front and the bogies or the compartments following, which means our mind must lead our life and the emotions must follow. In today's generation, today's times that we live, we see it the other way. The emotions are in front and the engine is somewhere behind. Our life will not go anywhere. Even in our hospitals, if the patient asks you something, if you burst out in anger, that is becoming very emotionally insensitive. If we do that, we are damaging the journey of our life. We always need to have a mind that will rationalize, a mind that will think, a mind that will be able to explain, and then emotions will follow. The next slide, please. The next one. Yes, I'm sure all of us are aiming to reach the sky. We do not want mediocre lives. We want lives that are accomplished. We want good life. We want the curve, a professional curve, to go higher up. And if that is our ambition, if that is our vision, then definitely we have to lay deep foundations now. And every day of our life, we need to make commitments, need to make wise choices. We need to take decisions that today I'm going to take care of my patients with, with gentleness. Today I will try not to be angry. Today I will care for them, meet with their needs. Yeah, then definitely you will have a lofty professional career. The next one, please. As nurses, we care. I'm sure all of us understand that ours is a caring profession. It is the medical profession that is involved in curing. But we as nurses participate in providing the right ambience so that the medicines that are administered, the things that are given to the patient will work properly so that the patient gets back to normal health. So we care. Ours is a caring profession. Somewhere along the line, we have missed that mark. We have missed realizing that ours is a caring profession and we do so many things other than actual care. Sometimes it is very sad when you go to a hospital and you think of what is the nurse's role actually. You know, we see nurses writing down books, they write down the doctor's orders, they're writing down, entries are happening, but where is the care happening? We care when we are studying, when we are in the student period, there's a lot of care happening. Now, we have to be very careful that we don't exchange this responsibility with anything else, because today we have so many other people who have come and taken our responsibilities. We have occupational therapists, we have a dietitian, we have, we have people to do the IV lines. We have so many people who have taken up our job. Now it's time for us as nurses to question and see what is really my job? What am I doing? Am I giving care to my patient? Is it important for me to turn my patient every too early so that the patient does not develop a bed sore? Do I need to give psychological support to the patient? Do I need to ambulate the patient? Okay, this is all part of caring. Am I there to make sure patients' food is taken care of? I don't just leave it at the bedside table and walk off. No, I'm there to support, lend a helping hand, like we see here. The next one, please. We care with our heart and mind and skill. Okay, these are the three areas that we always talk about: knowledge, attitude, and skill. And believe me, I can give it to you in writing that there is no other undergraduate curriculum that is so comprehensive like that of the nursing curriculum. Okay, now for example, the first year we study all our basics, we study fundamentals of nursing, we study anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, etc., nutrition, etc. Second year you go on to little more speciality about medical surgical, you study a little more details about other subjects. So we have later on, we study humanities, we have, like psychology, sociology, we have administration, we study administration, we study education, we study research, we study biostatistics, we study administration in different areas. We go to the patient's bedside. We are at the bedside taking care of the patients. We go to the community in the primary health center. You remember during the pandemic, nurses were, all round the clock they were working. Our student nurses would go to administer vaccination to COVID patients. So it is knowledge, attitude, and skill that has been so comprehensively ingrained in our syllabus. And we have learned it so well. So our nursing, the care that we give involves our heart and it involves our mind. It involves our hand where we skillfully, for example, I remember in the ICUs, etc. If there is a fresh intern, medical intern who comes in, he does not know how to intubate the patient. So it's the senior staff nurse who will teach him because she's been there, she's been doing it. Okay, day in and day out, she's been doing it. So her skill is so good. So in nursing, my dear friends, be proud that you are a nurse and make sure that your nursing skill, whatever you have learned, is actually reaching out to the patient. Because, can you imagine somebody completely bedridden, maybe a paraplegic patient, and the patient has got a fly coming and sitting right on his nose. He can't even shoo the fly out. Okay, or there's some mosquito biting him, right? So we need to be sensitive to the patient's needs, physical needs, psychological needs. Okay, all these things we should become aware of, and we should provide whatever is possible within our limits, within within the outline of our profession. We should be able to provide. If not, we should be able to coordinate with others who can give those services to our patients. Yeah, the next one. I think this is a picture of the Afghanistan war, and in a war-torn area. Okay, this is a nurse giving water to a child. When you're really, really thirsty, nothing quenches your thirst as much as water does. Sometimes our patients lie in bed and we walk around doing this, that, and the patient is not able to drink water, and we just overlook that. We overlook that and we are not able to see the need of the patient. Okay, so we need to be sensitive and take care of the patient's needs. So even in a war-torn area, a nurse is there to help out. The next one, that is again another, the next slide, please. Pain, how many of us like pain? Okay, we all find it so hard, a pain like a toothache, or maybe a ear pain, or maybe a gastric pain. Okay, maybe anything, any pain. We know how hard it is, right? As nurses, we have learned so many things about pain management, right? Standing with, sometimes, you don't even have to do anything. I remember many years back when I was in the labor room and a mother lost her baby. You can't speak anything at that time. All you can do is just hold the mother's hand tight. Just hold tight, because she's going through pain. She's going through emotional pain. She's going through so much of fear and anxiety. And all you do is just hold her hand tight. Okay, so that the mother knows that I am there to take care. So, this is somebody lying down and saying that I was in a lot of pain, but now I've had treatment. And the person who gave that was a nurse, and she was an angel. Many people nowadays don't like the word angel to be associated with nursing, because they say nursing is very scientific. Yes, of course, nursing is scientific. We have a rationale for everything. But just because we use our mind doesn't mean we don't use our heart. We use our mind and our heart and our skill together. Okay, so there's no problem in calling a nurse an angel. The next one. This is somewhere in the Arabic country. I'm sure it is some war related or accident related. I call her a sister, and she's a nurse. She's my nurse. Okay. Now, that feeling of having a sister, there's so much of bonding, so much of affection. So you and I, as nurses, we are sisters to patients, people whom we do not know, people whom we have seen for the first time, but we are there to help out. So a nurse is a sister to patients around. Okay, the next one. The next slide. Nurses dare to go where others would dread to go. Okay, like pandemic, right in front of our eyes, right for us, right, very fresh in our mind, very fresh in the minds of the whole world. Okay, when everybody was afraid to even family members, we could not even move out of the house because it was so contagious. There was so much of fear. And yet we saw nurses reaching out, putting on, even at the cost of their own family. There are so many stories where young mothers, young nurses had to leave. I remember some of my friends, they had to leave their babies with their neighbors because they were taking care of COVID patients. So where even where others are afraid to go, a nurse dares to go because her life is meant for that. So that is the care that we give. The next one. I think these days geriatric care is becoming a big source of concern, because we know because of our medications and technologies and our way of life, our longevity has increased. We have so many elderly patients, elderly parents. I'm sure in Kerala, if you look at Kerala itself, we have so many elderly people, okay? And many of these homes, parents are alone, children are not around. So many in the hospitals, so many, alone, at almost having nobody around. But a smiling, caring nurse gives so much of a a comfort. I remember so many of my elderly patients would say, my children are not here, but I'm happy that you are there. The feeling, you look at the eye contact that the mother is giving to this nurse. This is where we need to show our care and concern for our patients, right? We need to reach out. Our smile, that's why I always tell my friends, my students, wear your smile, wear your smile. Because when you smile at someone, they reciprocate with a smile. And in the hospital, when you go to the ward and look at a patient and smile and touch them and ask them, how are you doing? That almost takes away half the burden. So that is our responsibility, okay? And the next slide, please. I don't know when the end will come. This is a hospice, okay? But a hug gives me courage, right? The end of life's journey, patients in the hospice. Truly, they're just waiting, they're just counting their days, not sure whether they'll see the next morning, right? Now the nurse here is, I'm sure she's not able to alleviate the pain and the suffering, but she's there, her arm around this elderly amma, right? That shows that there is somebody to take care. And truly, she does not know when the end will come, but she knows that there are people around. Okay, so see, as we understand these concepts, as we understand and remind ourselves, it gives us the realization that I've got a big job. It is not just a 6-hour shift duty or a night duty. There's so much more helpless people who are in need, people who can't help themselves. They are there just waiting for me. So we take it very seriously. The next one, the next slide. A neonatal intensive care unit. No mom's fingers to touch, but she's enough. Okay, you expect we talk about, breastfeeding, okay, exclusive breastfeeding immediately, and in a neonatal intensive care unit, the baby is alone with all tubings. You look at this baby's hand. Okay, there's no mom there. But you and I, when we go there, we reach out to the little ones. There's a study which says a newborn baby which is not touched, will fail to thrive, will die. Okay, so we cannot have the mother holding the baby in a neonatal intensive care unit because there are a lot of machines that are being attached, life-saving devices. But as a nurse, I am there. I am that supporting bridge for the little child. The sense of touch, that sense of touch, that little baby's fingers touching the nurse's hand gives so much of a connection that I'm not alone in this environment, in this cold environment. There is somebody with me. Okay, so that is our role. The next one, the next slide. Look at the wrinkles on this elderly mother's face. Okay, that gives you a picture of the journey that she has been through. And she says, she's talking about the nurse, she knows and she cares. See, when you are helpless, when you are bedridden, when you are sick, you just need somebody to trust on, to somebody around you. You need to get hooked on to somebody or hold on to somebody. And as a nurse, when you are there to give that courage, the patient comes up with a smile. Next one, my dear. Next slide, please. Virginia Henderson's definition tells us, even to a peaceful death. Okay, so all our patients may not recover. Some of them recover. Some of them go back home. Some of them are cured, are healed. Okay, some of them die. And sometimes it becomes very traumatic for us also as nurses. But you're taught to treat our patient's body with respect, lead them to a peaceful death. And this cannot be done with machines. This cannot be done only with technology. We need human hands. We need a pumping heartbeat. We need somebody with emotions, somebody with feelings who will reach out and help. Okay, there are relatives around who are crying. Maybe the head of the home has passed away. Maybe the dad in the home is no more. Maybe a mother has just lost her son and she's in tears, she's crying. The relatives are unconsolable. I'm sure that at such times, we also feel like breaking down. Our heart also sometimes breaks down, but we stand strong. We emotionally stand strong because we are there to take care of the patients, even leading them to a peaceful death. That is why we learn so much about care of the dead and the dying. That is why we learn about, giving a proper bath and then packing the body with respect. All this is so meaningful because human life is meaningful. We are not machines. Even if our population is so much, every human life is important. Especially when they are helpless, especially when they cannot do it for themselves, they need somebody who will reach out and do it for them. And you and I as nurses, fill up that place. And my dear friends, actually when, today we have expectations for everything. When you buy a product, when you buy an Apple iPhone, okay, you have an expectation that I'm paying this much and this is the brand name of this particular mobile. So I expect it to serve me, give me these services. When you go to a college for admission, there are expectations. Okay, you expect an IIT to perform so well, that the education would be so good, that placements would be so good. That is your expectation. When your son or daughter passes out from a medical college, you have high expectation. When you go to a shop to purchase jewelry, or you go to purchase clothes or food or anything, we have expectations. We pay money and we expect some services. Here we are talking about the expectations of our patients when they come to the hospital, when they come to Believers Church Medical College Hospital. They have an expectation that every nurse here is somebody very skillful, somebody with a heart to care, somebody who takes nursing very seriously. Okay, every patient has, I always think we are the ambassadors for nursing. People will go back and, our patients will go back and tell 10 other patients, go to this hospital, nursing care there is very good. They have an expectation. And as nurses, it is our time to introspect and see, is it matching the expectation and the experience that we give? Is it matching? Or let it be at least a step above their expectation, because we have dedicated our lives to the service of mankind. And believe me, there's nothing more valuable and more worth it than giving life to somebody, or helping somebody, or caring for somebody, standing with somebody, supporting somebody, giving them courage and hope. Okay, so I'm so happy for these definitions, because every time you read this, you begin to understand, God, there's so much more in nursing. Teach me. I want to be that nurse. I want to be the consciousness of the unconscious. I want to be the leg of the amputee. I want to give courage and confidence to the young mother. Okay. So when we start introspecting, when we start filling our lives with new understanding, new knowledge, it will translate into action. Our skills, we will try and improve our skills. when our skills are improved, our communication is improved, our knowledge is improved, we are able to apply this, our attitude is improved, that will reflect on the experience that our patients receive from us. The next slide, please. A nurse, her life is lived for others, her time spent for others, her strength meant for others, her years selflessly lived. Who else could do so much for others and yet smile the way she does? Isn't it beautiful? I want to be that nurse. I want to smile. I want to spread cheer. And to that extent, I want my patients' experiences outgrow their expectation, because as a nurse, I'm willing to, learn more, do more, and be more. Yes. So nurses are people who are on a humanitarian pursuit. Okay, we care for others. I remember some time back during one of our sports day celebration, when we had student nurses sports day celebration, we had a captain who came as the chief guest. And as he stood up, the first thing he did was he said, I salute you, nurses. Because he said, we are living in a generation where children do not take care of their parents. But you as young children, young students, are taking care of somebody in the hospital who you do not even know. You don't know anything about them, but you're caring for them. Okay? So this evening, we're taking this privilege to salute all the nurses, and we're praying and we are believing that we will work towards improving the 3 areas of our life, so that our patients' expectations and their experience match, or their experience go one level higher. The next slide, please. The next slide. I'm sure you've heard about Malala. She was a Nobel Peace Prize winner in 2014. Pretty young girl. She was shot at by the Afghan terrorist. But then this young girl, I think she was 14 or something, she said, when the whole world is silent, even one voice becomes powerful. And on the eve of the International Nurses Day, my dear friends, my dear nurses, we are not just one voice. We are a very powerful voice. Nurses all over the world, we'll join hands together. And once again, we will show that we're going to lead. We are going to show the way. We're going to continue being warriors. We are going to continue fight for the health of our people and our nation and our world. Thank you very much for having me here. I enjoyed it. I hope it was a meaningful exercise. Thank you very much. Thank you. Over to you, Minnie.
I have no words to say what I've been through for the past, 45 minutes or so. It was fantastic, Shirley, listening to you.
Thank you.
You took me down the memory lane of our
I know.
holidays, to
Yes.
us, inculcating all those values into us.
Absolutely.
And there were so many words that I keep repeating to my staff, my nursing family here, which I was a second, which was seconding my thoughts, saying that many are on the right track, because I heard them resound from you again. I have a small write-up from which I got from the Google, but it touched me. It says advice from patient, and I would want to read it out to everybody. It says, this may be a normal day at work for you, but it is a big day in my life. The look on your face and the tone of your voice can change my entire view of it. Remember, I am not usually this needy or scared. I'm here because I trust you. Help me stay confident. I may look like I'm out of it, but I can hear your conversations. I'm not used to being naked around strangers. Keep that in mind. I'm impatient because I want to get the heck out of here. Nothing personal. I do not speak your language well. You are going to do what? I may only be here for 4 days, but I'll remember you the rest of my life.
Yeah,
The patient needs more patience.
that's
And
right.
it's beautiful, it is wonderful, and it is in line with what you said. And yes, the patient's expectations are very high because the patients whom we deal with now come with much awareness. The world being on their laps, on their pan tops, they can read, they can Google, they can get there's information everywhere. So when they come to us, we deal with a lot of knowledgeable patients. So that increases our challenge to meet their needs according to their expectations. So the take home message from your talk today is, can we care as worship? Caring is worship, caring as a service, unconditional patient-centered care, and by rendering care to the person as a whole, holistic care, and caring for the community. Let us not leave the family out of it. Include them in the care that we deliver on a daily basis to our patients. I hope and pray that there are student nurses listening to us. There are teachers and tutors with us, the young aspirant youngsters who want to take up a profession, who want to make a choice which way to go. I would tell them all that nursing is something that I vouch you will bring a lot of peace and happiness. Thank you, Shirley. It was wonderful. It was wonderful, and the body of knowledge that we gained during our student period is very, very important because that is going to lead us through. And yes, nursing is a science. Nursing is an art, but above all, nursing is a calling. It's a service. So, all those put together makes the nurse, and I'm proud to be a nurse. Actually, we might need to take up some questions, and one of the questions that I want to put forward to you from the viewers is, what could be a hurdle as nurses meeting the patient's expectations, meeting the patient, giving them the experience that they would like to have, and what they would go out and share with the community. So what could be our hurdles as nurses? Shirley, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me, Minnie?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
So did you get my question?
Yeah, you're asking me about what are the challenges.
Challenges, yeah.
Okay. Hurdles that come in that prevent a nurse from giving the patient right.
Delivering the patient quality care,
Yeah.
meeting his expectations.
Yeah. See, all of us as individuals, we come from our own ambience, our external ambience, our internal ambience. Okay, so we have our external environment. For example, we have our families, we have our children, maybe we have our physical, environment, we have our mental environment. We also have, see, when you go and take care of your patient comes with all those ambience just as we did. Now, it may be because you don't have adequate knowledge, you've not read up about that particular disease condition. Maybe you've had all your experience in a pediatric setup, and today they are sending you into a cardiac area. You don't have adequate knowledge. Or maybe this is a new procedure that is being done, and you've never really, assisted, or you've never really worked or seen somebody doing that procedure. So sometimes it can be your knowledge, it can be your skill, which comes as a hurdle. Language can be a hurdle sometimes. When you're not able to communicate adequately or properly, or in the language that the patient wants or the patient is able to understand, that can become a hurdle. Okay, so sometimes your mental frame of mind, sometimes you've had a terrible day, you yourself, on the way to the hospital, you've had 100 things on your mind. So that becomes a block when you come to see your patient. you're not in the right frame. So these are all different hurdles that can come in, because we are, after all, human beings. We are not superhuman. We are all very much human, part of a family. We have our responsibilities. We have our struggles. Okay, so making it, handling the balance, it's a balancing act. And as you mature, you begin to understand, I don't carry my burdens to my workplace. I leave them there and I need to work. Okay, now if you know that you do not have adequate knowledge, you need to read up on that. Okay, even if your patient asks you something and you don't know, it is fine to tell the patient, I'm sorry, I don't know. Give me 10 minutes or 15 minutes or half an hour. Let me read up, let me check up, and I'll come and tell. They will appreciate your honesty. So, these are some of the hurdles that I see.
Yeah, and also with the current scenario of the post-pandemic era or period, the crisis was so huge that the biggest challenge we had was, shutting down colleges.
Yeah.
Bedside nursing and practice was very minimal during those periods. So that also leads to some kind of pressure on the nurses of in hospitals, where we have to train these young novices, inculcate the culture of caring into them. So this could be also part of it. And with the advent of nurses from India being siphoned out, they're all going out abroad. So all the training that we gave them, and it's being put into practice, and it's being utilized elsewhere. I know that is important, if that's important, but nevertheless, we who are left here to take care of our community and the patients who are committed to our care face a bigger challenge of keeping a good flow of nurses available with the culture of caring, the knowledge, the, the, the passion has to be lit. I'm sure the talk today has rekindled, the passion in many hearts, and God bless you, Shel. What about, especially during the COVID crisis now, we had patients coming with all kinds of psychological problems, the fear of unknown, and our little nurses by the bedside, they had this big fear of, taking care of them initially. That has sort of died down with a lot of awareness and, teaching. But these nurses were frightened how they would balance between the family and the patients. Would they be a carrier? Would they carry the disease home? So this was another challenge. Did you face such situations where you had people sort of, they want to work, yet they don't know how to go about?
Yeah.
Knowledge deficit was there initially. We did not know what to tell the patients. So could you say something about that?
Yes. I think this was something, that took the world by surprise. We were not ready for anything like this. And most of the people could stay back at home, but not nurses. Nurses had to be there on in the hospitals at the bedside. And like I said before, we are all part of a family. And the fear of taking back the germs, taking back the microorganisms home. This was a real, a really, it was a fear that was gripping the nursing community. But I think in many places, there's a lot of support system for nurses. Nurses themselves rose up, and there was a lot of education that was given in, lot of confidence building that was done for nurses, helping them to understand. And also many of them were isolated from their families. Those who were taking care of patients were not allowed to go home. They were taking care for a week. Then for 1 week, they were isolated in a hotel, and the government took care of them. So to a great extent, the government did pitch in, to make sure that nurses are fed well, they are taken care of well, and then they were allowed to go home. So there was a lot of, that was a time when, we all realized that we are there for each other, we are needed for each other. And we had people from the education side also pulling in, joining hands with the people in the service side. So that became a big eye opener. And also that became, that gave us a lot of boost. Even when the government began to recognize the effort of nurses, that really did help nurses to cope up with the struggles. And families also pitched in so well. I think many homes, the husband started to be, taking care, doing the work at home, taking care of the little ones. So, that way nurses were really helped. We also had tragedies. We also had places where, nurses, we lost some of our nurses. And yeah, all those things also did happen. Yes.
Thank you, Shirley. Thank you. And for all our audience out there, the take-home message is whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord and not for human masters. Let nursing be a calling. Let nursing be a service more than a job. Okay, a profession, yes, with dignity. That is what we nurses are. Let's go around. Let's be there for people who need us with respect, dignity, values, and spread compassion, spread love, and let our patients have that experience, which is beyond their expectation when they came to the hospital. When they leave us, let them go out and let our hospitals be known for the nursing care that we render. Thank you very much. Thank you, Shirley, for your time. Jacob, are you there?
I'm there, ma'am, but I'm stuck and struck.
Why?
Starstruck. I'm starstruck. So thank you so much, Shirley ma'am, and thank you, Minnie ma'am. I was just, basking in that beautiful talk, and I have no words. So now I'm thinking if I should go back on my profession and do my nursing. And yeah, so incidentally, my grandfather was a nurse. He worked for 35 years in Dhahran in Saudi Arabia for Aramco. So he has always shared his rich experiences with me. And my grandmother proudly said one day that doctors used to call him the walking encyclopedia, and even junior doctors used to consult him for various procedures and stuff. So that is how important a nurse's contribution is. And as I said, so many Florence Nightingales, millions of Florence Nightingales all across the world, carrying their lamp and championing faithfully for the cause of the patient. And today, tomorrow is World Nurses Day, and I'm excited to have a smorgasbord of nurses right now listening to us. And I would like to say one thing which came to my heart as ma'am was speaking, especially the neonatology picture with the little one. Oh, I was in tears, ma'am. Thank you for that picture. Thank you for that perspective. I just wanted to say one quote which came to my mind. This is my own. I don't know if somebody else has said this. When we are born, our first nurse is our mother. And when we die, our last nurse is either a wife, a daughter, or a granddaughter. And in between, whenever you get sick, your mother is your nurse, your daughter is your nurse, your granddaughter is your nurse. So on that note, I would really like to thank our speaker, Shirley ma'am. Wow, what experience does to a person, ma'am. Hats off to you. And of course, our own flower, the most wonderful Minnie Sarah ma'am. Thank you to both of you, and all of you who are listening, have tuned in. I'm very sure that this session is going to bring a world of change to your way of caring your patients. So will it to us, as we all together, hand in hand, take care of our patients and make world a better place for them to live in. So thank you so much. And then next week we are coming to you with a webinar in physiology, and we have eminent professors from Kottayam Medical College to talk to us. And until then, signing off from Believers Church Medical College and Hospital. Have a blessed week ahead. God bless. Thank you.
God bless you too. Bye-bye, Shal.